Welcome, everyone, to Stay Curious. I'm your host, Mark Marquette. My pleasure to bring you this program weekdays, Monday through Friday, inside the American Space Museum in downtown Titusville, Florida. And beside me for coming up on 6 years in March is uh, Marty Winkle, my on our computer system over there. And Marty, thank you for being here today. Hope you've had a good day, kind of a Chamber of Commerce day here in sunny Florida. And Marty, we're going to talk today about two legendary birthdays. Well, at least one's a legend. Both are iconic in many ways. Of course, I'm talking about Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon. He is 96 years old today. And then we also have the birthday of Jerry Ross. And Jerry is 78 years old today. And I'm hoping I brought Jerry's birthday information over here. That'd be embarrassing if I didn't. And also today is Robert Law's birthday. Okay, RTL there. Return to launch site. Robert Law up in Dundee, Scotland. Soon to be here at the American Space Museum. And so, Robert, happy birthday to you. Celebrating it with two iconic astronauts. Of course, Buzz Aldrin's iconic. You might question that about Jerry Ross. And dang, I didn't bring Jerry's or my phone over here, Marty, to talk to anybody. So I'm going to be embarrassed about that here in a minute. You bring my phone, I can pull up what I said about Jerry on there. But while Marty's helping me do that with this beautiful picture of Moonwalker Buzz Aldrin on there. No, he's not looking at the flag. Oh, there's my phone over there. He's looking at. No, Buzzer is not looking at the American flag. I'll show you what he's looking at here in a minute.
With your notes.
Yeah, that's not it. No, I got a mess here. We've got a lot going on here, and I'm gonna pull up my Facebook so I can get that straightened out here with you all and talk to you all. Let's go to there, but I wanted to say that we are sponsored by Brevard Astronomical Society. Okay, Brevard Astronomical Society for over 50 years has been doing tremendous stargazing outreach in our community here. And whoop, I made Jerry too old on our Facebook page. He's actually 78 years old. Get to that in a second here, and I can edit that while I'm talking. Brevard Astronomical Society, which I've been the privilege to be the past president of, and they have for over 50 years done a lot of outreach in the community, and I want to honor them as our sponsor here today, and hope that you have an astronomy club near where you live. If you do, they're usually at the university or small schools or whatever. Even high schools might have a stargazing program. But you want to go out there and look at the um, Jupiter and avail yourself of any stargazing program that's at any of the clubs around America. Stargazing is a very small hobby, okay? Like 1 million amateur astronomers worldwide, over 500,000 in America. That's not many when you're talking about bass fishing of America's probably got 6,000 members or something like that the last time I looked it up. A lot more people fishing in water than fishing up in the sky for things. But once you get hooked on it, it's a fun thing to do. Here's the website of the Brevard Astronomical Society. If you're local, there, astronomy compels the soul to look upwards and leads us from this world to another. That's our motto, and Plato said that way before the telescope. Our next meeting is Wednesday at Sand Space History Center. We have been immersed in a private party here at the museum. I haven't been talking about too much, but I'll share it with you more tomorrow when we talk about BRPH construction, throwing a big party of influencers here at the American Space Museum. So we're looking forward to that. there's stargazing party. We were at the Enchanted Forest, where I had a meeting of the Titusville Area Visitors Council at 2 o'clock today. I'm the treasurer of that. My other meeting today that I attended as the chairman is the Flag and Memorial Committee that does the Astronaut Memorial Sunday for our 17 fallen heroes. So when it rains, it pours, and I've been very busy and feel a horse in my throat here, getting maybe from talking too much. Um, but we got events lined up, and also what I find of interest that you might not know about is you've heard how we talk like astronomers to how many days old the moon is, and the moon is 1 day old today. Okay, Marty, which means it's the day after new moon. But here we have a weather map on our homepage of the peninsula there and up to Tennessee. And then on the right side, you're going, what in the world is that? That is our sky chart that we go by. And the sky chart is Titusville, Melbourne, and Kissimmee. Kissimmee Prairie is a park in the middle of the state that's one of the darker sites without light pollution. And what this tells you is how clear it is, the transparency. It can be clear and no clouds in the sky, but it's not good stargazing because there's a jet stream going by making the air turbulent. That is what we call transparency. And a bunch of other information there by the hour to tell you, is this a good night to observe or not? So we get quite detailed into the forecasts of weather as well, and also the sky conditions out there, and just thought you'd like to know. All right, as we have Brevard Astronomical Society sponsoring us today. Now, a couple other things of interest. I received in the mail today. Let me go there. I received in the mail today a postcard that flown to space on a Blue Origin suborbital flight. Now I'm looking for my glasses now. So stay curious. I sent to orbit, and there's the postmark there. This, of course, is the program of Blue Origin to educate kids and so forth. You don't see him over there, Marty? No. No. All right, don't worry about it. I'll struggle through it here. Anyway, it was cool. I did this over a year ago, so now they're just getting some out. They put them in a pack on those suborbital Blue Origins. That's okay, Marty. I'm going to start wearing them around my neck. Looking for some glasses around here. And yes, I've been way too busy. That's okay, my friend. Well, so anyway, it's fun to get this flown to space. I'll put it up here on our wall. Just another fun thing that kids do and Blue Origin advocates that on their program is called Club for the Future. All right, in Kent, Washington, the home. And you draw on the back what you want, and they stamp it that it went to space. How cool is that? All right, so okay. Something at one of the meetings today, at the morning meeting, the Flag and Memorial Committee, one of the gentlemen, Bob Swank, who is involved with the Elks in town, a very successful Elks Lodge here, said he went out, Marty, and saw the Artemis rollout, and he was very impressed. He was out there, probably the same area where you were. But he said that among the group that he was touring with was astronaut Frank Rubio. All right. Did you see Frank Rubio? And he was in a blue suit.
No, I didn't see him. Bill Whiting did, and he was at the LCC parking lot.
Okay. Frank Rubio. I go, Frank Rubio, that rings a bell. So my question to you out there, space fan, is what astronaut holds the record for the longest mission ever by an American? Okay. The longest mission ever by American. Most people would probably guess Scott Kelly in his advertised year in space that was actually 11 months in space. I ran across this info chart off a NASA site. Frank Rubio spent 371 days in a row on the International Space Station. All right. Mark Vande Hey of uh, Dutch descent there spent 355 days in a row. Scott Kelly did 340 days in a row. And Christina Cook has the women's record, just a little way ahead of Peggy Whitson, of one mission, single spaceflight record holder. Why did Frank Rubio spend over a year in space? Was that planned? Everyone remember that? No, it was not planned. He went up on a Soyuz spacecraft, okay, before the flying, and it developed a broken cooling system. It was actually venting ammonia out, the coolant ammonia out into space. So he had to stay up, not his regular 7-month expedition, but stayed up a longer time for Roscosmos to send up a second spacecraft. I believe this is before Blue Origin was flying, which was in 2020, so maybe 5 years ago. But he has spent 371 continuous days in space, and I told Bob at this meeting that, and I said, you shook the hand of the guy that spent more time continuous than anybody in space. So there you got, how about Butch and Sonny? Their 200, with their 8 days, Marty, turned into 286 days and ranks them 5th all time or 6th all time among Americans. Andrew Morgan, 272. And then you got 3 of them there at 235 days. Jeanette Epps, Matthew Dominic, and Mike Barrett, who came back on Crew Dragon 10 after spending his 65th birthday in space. So I like charts like these, and I love facts like these to share with you on Stay Curious. Well, happy birthday to we're gonna do Buzz in 2 parts here. A brief part about, and then we're gonna talk about Buzz's career and some of the amazing things he's done in the last 20 years of his life. Edwin Eugene Aldrin Jr. was born January 20th, 1930 in Montclair, New Jersey, to a mother whose maiden name was Moon. There's Buzz about 4 or 5 years ago, and what I say will be regarded 1,000 years from now as the most significant photo in the history of man. All right, is this photo taken on Hasselblad film, Hasselblad camera and film by, of course, Neil Armstrong of Buzz on the Moon, with Neil in shadow in the picture. Neil's in the picture next to the lunar module. And we in the profession call this the visor shot because of Neil and the lamb being reflected in the visor. No other photos like this, by the way. There's others that have cool reflections in them and so forth. But there's Buzz just right near the landing leg. The pole of the indicator is laying in front of him, usually cropped out. And that iconic image will be regarded definitely the top 5 images of all time ever taken by a human. Some interesting things. He was 40 when he was on the moon. West Point graduate. Been a major social media influencer the last 2 decades, promoting humans on Mars and other space endeavors. We'll talk about those in a minute. At Spaceview Park, we believe is the only place you can put your hands on his hands. We'll see a picture of that in a minute. He legally changed his name to Buzz in 1988. All right. A nickname stemming from his younger sister's interpretation of brother. She's trying to say brother, and it come out Buzzer. And so he become known as Buzzer and Buzz. And then with the Buzz Lightyear phenomenon of Pixar, I guess, in the day, he changed his name legally to Buzz. And let's see here. Buzz likes to step out traditionally in pictures of other Apollo astronauts that you see at the Cosmosphere events and Kennedy Space Center and Astronaut Scholarship Foundation. He is decked to the nines. He's got his award from his Presidential Freedom Award given to citizens there around his neck. Uh, he don't mind clash and fashion, Marty, does he? Marty, did you ever meet Buzz Aldrin? Uh,
Saw him, meet him, no, but saw him.
okay. Never did the Grummins line up and the Apollo guys shake your hands for building the most fabulous machine to operate in space and in the vacuum of space that nobody's done yet again, and lands on another. Okay. So, wish they'd have done that for you there. Um, so we'll get back to some more Buzz stuff there, known as Dr. Rendezvous. His Massachusetts Institute of Technology doctoral thesis was, quote, line of sight guidance techniques for manned orbital rendezvous. And this made him famous. He wrote the book on how to rendezvous in space. And one of the tricks is you have two objects in space, like this shot glass, it will for say is a spacecraft, and this rubber plug is another spacecraft. To to pass the shot glass, get ahead of the black plug here, you have to slow down. Gravity grabs you, you speed up, go ahead, then you come back up. And that's one of the techniques that was figured out by Buzz. And he helped solve problems on spacewalks in Gemini 12, we'll talk about here in a minute. And once again, this iconic image here has a little twist to it. And this image here is the reason I met Tom Usiak. Tommy, you watching today? You remember that conversation we had via Messenger about this image?
He's watching.
Good. Figured he would. Well, also, happy birthday to Jerry Ross. I got Jerry Ross's bio right here on my smart tablet, and then we'll switch to all you all watching today. Jerry Lynn Ross was born January 20th, 1948 in Crown Point, Indiana. He has been to space 7 times and performed 10 spacewalks, and 11th on the Department of Defense mission STS-27 isn't official, and he's whined about that at several of the luncheon talks I've seen him at. It was a top secret mission, but he tells people that I did do an 11th spacewalk. I can't tell you what I did, but they won't give me credit for it. Crown Point High School in Crown Point, Indiana. So he's the native son there. Went to Purdue University, mechanical engineering, a great Indiana university. 1970 and 72, his graduate years. And no doubt he's happy with the victory last night of the football college national champions, the Indiana Hoosiers there. So he flew 7 times in space. He ties with Franklin Chang Diaz as the most flown in space by any American astronaut. John Young did 6 and wanted to fly a 7th and even an 8th time. Story Musgrave also did 6, I believe, and really wanted to go to space again. His papers, photographs, and many personal items are in the Baron Hilton Flight and Space Exploration Archives at Purdue University. He was inducted in the Astronaut Hall of Fame, and there he is in space, getting ready to eat some food there. He's inducted in the Astronaut Hall of Fame in May 2024. The author of a book, Spacewalker, My Journey in Space and Faith, as NASA's record-setting frequent flyer. There he is talking out at Kennedy Space Center, something he rarely does anymore. And a list of all of his missions. He flew one of the Alphabet missions before Challenger in the blue suit, all right, only. And then he went to space on 27, which was the second return to flight that was hit by debris off of either the ET or the SRB that was so extensive that the commander, Hoot Gibson, didn't think they'd make it back alive, but they did. And so some great missions with Jerry there, big spacewalking expert. And fellow astronaut Chris Hadfield described Ross in his autobiography, calling Ross the embodiment of the trustworthy, loyal, courteous, and brave astronaut archetype. And here is the Astronaut Hall of Fame at the Boeing building out there at Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex. They have loose sight images of the astronauts in their youth with the great Alan Shepard, America's first spaceman, in a beautiful bronze statue of him there that's life size. And there's Jerry by my by his likeness there on an acrylic there. So good guy. I've been around Jerry 4 or 5 times at some social events, and he's a boiler up. You see him yell "boiler up," and that's the cheer for the Purdue and University of Purdue there. So Jerry, hope you're enjoying a wonderful 78th birthday today, and having a big celebration probably with Indiana University winning the national championship last night against Miami in a well played and fun game of football out there. All right, let's go to the YouTube channel on my phone and let's talk about the next 2 inductees in the Astronaut Hall of Fame, Tom Akers and Joe Tanner. Will have their likenesses have already been probably made there. And have we met Tom Akers out at Space Center? Is he done? Okay, Rick Heeb has. Yeah. Tom was part of the 3-person EVA of STS-49, and Joe Tanner, a Hubble hugger twice, and Joe was at our Shuttle Fest 4 and a big hit and a great guy. He's just a down-to-earth guy. Marty and I have a personal story about him, don't we, Marty?
We do.
Why don't you share that? Would you mind sharing how we came about Joe Tanner?
I can't, but you do a better job, but I'll start it off anyway. But we are just parking the trailer from at the Hyatt, for the Saturday, Sunday event. And Joe Tanner comes walking over to us and says, "I have something for you, Mark."
Yeah.
And
first he said, "Is that museum any good?" I see on the side of your trailer there. And I turn around and I kind of recognize him. I go, "You don't have," I go, "Joe Tanner?" He says, "Yeah." And he had his knapsack in one hand and his duffel bag in the other. He hadn't even checked in yet. And he said, "I got something for you." And he pulled out a bunch of patches and a bunch of decals that he said, "I've gone through everything in my house, given it to my family. I think he's got some sons, and I want you to get rid of these for me." And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so cool. He ended up being just a regular guy. And at the end of Shuttle Fest 4 last April on Sunday, he said, "Mark, if you don't come and see me in Colorado, that's your own fault. You're welcome anytime." He lives out there in West Colorado, out there in Mitch Rothman country out there. And so maybe one day I'll come see you, Joe T, but I can't wait. The date I got to put down May 14th and 15th. Here he'll be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I'll bet he never expected that. He's such a humble guy. But so anyway, I'll be there for that ceremony there myself. So let's say hi to some of our friends there. Jim McDade's watching today. Dave Stangy says hello to all of us. He's and so many of you spend an hour with us today. We're so happy about that. RG Jubilee is there. Doug Forrest, Rosalie's on Merritt Island here, not too far from us. Doug Forrest is in Los Angeles. Ophelia Sauteril, she is in France, okay? And as I wave at Ophelia, that's about 5,000 miles away. And Ophelia, you and I are closer to each other than Artemis 2 is going to get to the moon. We'll be talking more about that later, but that's the truth. Mark Thel, hello to you. Ophelia there, thumbs up. Who is the astronaut inside the spacesuit we're looking at? All right, of course, that's Buzz Aldrin there, taken on Apollo 11. Good afternoon, Steve Jokums. in the frozen tundra of Fox Lake, Illinois. Well, at least you can get your ice skates out there and maybe have some fun. I did that a lot. There's Tommy Usiak. I'll tell you a story about this picture, and Tom and I befriending each other over it. Mostly Parked is here. Fred Liner, glad that you're with us there. Uh, his birthday is on St. Andrew's Day, the Summer of Love in 1967. Okay, Fred. So we know what your parents were thinking about. Steve there, 13 degrees and sunny there in Macomb, Michigan for Dave Stange. It's not that here. All right, we're going to head up to the 80s by the weekend, Marty. And yeah, happy birthday, Robert Law. Again, his birthday's January 20th. There's Robert right there. All right. And we'll see Robert here. Who's oh, you're in your kilt there. He's got his full dress kilt there in the bottom when at the astronaut encounter. Happy Tuesday to you, Carlton Bailey, and Jim McDade saying hi there to all of us again. Good morning, Cliff Watson down in Pomona, Australia. How's everything on Wednesday? Hanging out there. The Highwayman 78. Yes, that is something that we're talking astronomy there, the Highwayman. When you're looking through a telescope, or for that matter, looking up in the sky, you're looking at a time machine. Everything is in the past because it's so far away that light takes 8.5 minutes to go from the sun to Earth every day. And let's see, we've got, so Cliffy's there. Y'all are starting to talk to each other. Steve's got a good anecdote. Buzz Aldrin was one of the test pilots who attended Pancho Barnes' 70th birthday party back in Edwards, in California. Tom Celentano says Buzz Aldrin was the first astronaut I ever met from the 41D launch at KSC. Then I met him a couple times and got a book autograph from him at the International Space Development Conference. Yep, long live Buzz, and he sure is. Michael Bruno met him at a book signing. He was grateful. I was the only other one there wearing a tie. Okay, besides him. Okay. McDade says Buzz has the most colorful and interesting wardrobe in astronaut history. I second that. And Jokum says I worked with Jerry Ross's cousin at United Labs in Northbrook. Haven't met him in person, though. Okay. And thanks for the birthday mention. You're welcome, Robert Law. We won't say how old you are, but you can tell us here. And Jim McDade says he saw Aurora in Huntsville last night. Wow, that's south of the Mason-Dixon line. So go out and check it out tonight there. Didn't get an Aurora alert last night. So let's look at some of the amazing things that Buzz Aldrin has done in his life. And like I say, this photograph is for all eternity. Okay, name me some other photographs that will last 1,000 years from now in the annals of history. Maybe the Hindenburg. That's a pretty good one there. Okay, because of the significance of that. But I'm going to rattle off some things about Buzz here. I love this picture of Buzz. Get your ass to Mars. Okay. This was a promotion that Space Hipsters and Emily Carney, hey Emily, helped do. Help promote this. I think I bought a Get Your Ass to Mars t-shirt from Buzz on there. He really had a tremendous idea to go. It's called the Mars Cycler. All right. Bear with me without my glasses. The Mars Cycler. I got notes on everything about Buzz. He devised a spacecraft system for missions to Mars known as the Aldrin Mars Cycler and received 3 U.S. patents for his schematics of a modular space station and star booster, reusable rockets, and multi-crew modules. All right. Buzz's concept is just start the wagon train going. Send 8 spaceships with supplies, 1 with people, and keep them going back and forth in a cycle of years where you can't stop once you go to Mars. You have to keep the wagon train going. Otherwise, people will die because there'll be something down the line. You send 8 cargo ships because maybe only 7 will make it there and land safely, type of thing. So, really a great idea, and I've followed that in depth there. Let's see what other pictures I got with Buzz. Okay, let's talk about Buzz being Dancing with the Stars. Okay, he was on Dancing with the Stars. I got the date here. In 2010, at age 80, all right, he danced with Ashley Delgasso there in the picture for all you dance fans. He was 80 years old, and I think they finished last. He wasn't a very good dancer. Finished 10th. Okay, it had to be close to last. Okay. Let's see some other things. In 2020, he and Aldrin and Collins received Emmy nominations for outstanding cinematography for footage they shot used in a CNN documentary, Apollo 11. And they lost to filmmakers behind National Geographic's The Cave, though he's got some IMDb credits on there. I'll show that here in a minute. Buzz, let's see. We don't want to look at that picture of him there. There's a cooler picture of Buzz with his hand, his look at his hand signatures obviously changed over the years somewhat. As his official Gemini portrait before he flew. Was honored for combat service in the Korean War. He did take communion on the moon, all right, in a special little vial that he took with him with the bread and blood over the wine. He ate snacks on the moon, sugar cookies, square bacon, fruit drink, and coffee. He took everything in space for any emergency, from diarrhea to antibiotics. His total time in space is less than 12 days. All right. He candidly revealed his struggles with depression and alcoholism after his NASA career. That was a biggie. And this is something to think about around your mindset. Here he is in the first selfie he took on Gemini 12, where he figured out that the best way to train for a spacewalk is in a tank of water in a spacesuit with scuba divers around there helping you do it, what they do now. That was an aha moment for NASA. All right. But that is the first selfie. He turned the camera around on himself on his stand-up EVA. I think he did actually 3 stand-up EVAs and 1 EVA on Gemini 12 on there. That was, of course, with the other, with Jim Lovell, who died at age 97 just last year. So Buzz is not the oldest living astronaut, or not longevity-wise. I think making it to 97 will put Lovell at the top of that. There he is on another Gemini EVA photo taken by Lovell. Very cool picture. I love that picture. In 2015, he launched the Buzz Aldrin Space Institute at Florida Tech to, quote, promote and develop his vision of a permanent human settlement on the planet Mars. And his son, Andy, very involved in that institute still on behalf of his dad. By the way, his 1973 autobiography, Return to Earth, where he battled depression and alcoholism that led to a divorce. Think about this. You are just 20 minutes going down the ladder. There's Neil taking pictures of you. And when you're introduced, it's Neil Armstrong's the first man on the moon. And who are you? Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon. And you are? And this was constantly at things that he was going to. And he was like, hey, we landed on the moon side by side, okay? I'm Dr. Rendezvous. You needed me to pull this off, okay? So that led to drinking, and he took a lot of pills and was a mess. And really was super depressed over this, that Neil was getting all the attention, and everyone was forgetting about him. After all, who was the second person after Charles Lindbergh to cross the Atlantic Ocean solo? Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. 5 years later, Amelia Earhart. Yes, the great aviatrix Amelia Earhart. But who remembers that except you stay curious people, because I talk about it all the time. Also saw Chris Calley on here. Hey, Chris, whose dad did the iconic stamp, 8-cent stamp of the lunar with the first steps on the moon. Calley's dad did that. And I'm looking at some other comments here. Okay. I've chuckled at a couple of the comments there. All right, this photograph. I, through social media, talked to Tom Musiak, and I read a story about they were just redigitizing all the film and everything. And they were discovering things behind the visor of these astronauts on the moon, and this is one of them, okay? That when you look at this picture, okay, taken by Neil, Buzz Aldrin's face he's looking at the flag, okay? But his head is turned inside the helmet of a spacesuit does not pivot like our necks do. Or you have to turn your whole body to pivot it. And so his head is turned inside this fishbowl, and there you see his nose and his two eyes, the bridge of his nose, his mouth right there, looking at Neil. All right. Now, actually, he's saluting the flag on the other side and holding his hand up there. He doesn't know that Neil can't see his flag. He should have been left-handed, saluted with the left hand, and then you'd see that. But there's Buzz, and Tom Musiak, you and I had a conversation about this. You corrected me all about it, because now forever I see this picture looking like that. And here's the close-up of it. All right, you can see Buzz's two eyeballs there looking at Neil there. The bridge of his nose is what gives it away, and his right eye there. So isn't that cool? Now hopefully you know something that you didn't. But and a different appreciation of these spacesuits, that the head doesn't move. And they're looking around, they're looking at everything like they're inside a old TV set, Marty. Looking back at you there. So like sharing that about Buzz. I'm looking at some of the other pictures I got here to share some of the history of Buzz. There, we'll do this one here. Forward, there he is in the Hall of Fame. Okay, with just 2 missions, 12 days in space, and at age 96, he's still revered as one of the VIPs, though he is in somewhat ill health, I understand. His 4th wife died last year. That he'd known for a long time. That was a big blow to him, as she was his caretaker. Buzz also made guest appearances on such programs as The Simpsons, where his voice was used, in a cartoon character. 30 Rock, about a TV station in Rockefeller Center. The Big Bang Theory, of course, he was on. And he made a cameo in the movie Transformers, Dark of the Moon, 2011. All right. This is a cool picture I'm going to talk about. Buzz has a Guinness Book of World Records has visited the North and South Pole. He went to the North Pole in July 1998 as the oldest person aboard a nuclear icebreaker, and then traveled to the South Pole as a tourist in November 2016 when he was 86 years and 314 days old. But he had to be medically evacuated from the Scott Amundsen South Pole Station after becoming ill with altitude sickness. Incidentally, the explorer, he also ventured in 1996. He went to the wreck of the Titanic in a submersible vehicle. And at age 87, he flew with the Blue Angels, okay, on the Space Coast at one of their appearances there. I know Connie McDaniel's watching. She's a Blue Angels fan. She'll be impressed with that. So look at all the stuff this guy has done publicly since he was like 75 years old. And Marty, you're destined for great things in your old age if Buzz can do all that. Now let me get to one of my favorite pictures that's ever been shared with me here at the American Space Museum. Is this one. There you have Buzz Aldrin on the left. On the right is General Tom Stafford, the great four-time flyer who passed away last year or 2 years ago. And in the middle is the rocket guy, Lee Solid of Rocketdyne. Okay. And Lee's wife took this picture, and Lee shared it with me. It says, "Happy birthday, Buzz," in the back. Our esteemed board member Lee Solid, known as the rocket guy in the 1960 space race, Lee was responsible for every engine on the Saturn V rocket and even the ascent stage engine of the lunar module. All right. They are caught in the middle of an animated conversation. All right, with Buzz Aldrin and Tom Stafford there arguing about rocket engines. Okay, and this is from the late Lee Solid. They're celebrating Buzz's 89th birthday this week at the Fat Snook in Satellite Beach. And that menu price is too fat for my wallet right now, but I might try it one time. Very exclusive, like 24 tops in the whole restaurant. And rocket scientist Solid reminds these spacemen that it was his Rocketdyne F1 and J2 engines on the Saturn V that got them to the moon. And most importantly, it was his simple ascent engine on the lunar module that got him off. Lee told me they were arguing about different types of fuels. Neil was a big, I forget who advocated nuclear power there, but that's what the argument was about. And Buzz admits that he was not a cocktail guy at a happy hour. All right, he was bored with that type of atmosphere and would gravitate and just start talking about something technical or something like that with somebody until they walked away from him. But they're there at the Fat Snook on his birthday in his 89th birthday, so that'd be 7 years ago. All right. 7 from 26, so is 2019 is when this picture was taken, right before COVID. That's right. Buzz lived on the Space Coast in Satellite Beach, as did Tom, and he moved to Los Angeles, where some of his family was. And then somebody told me he did move back here within the last year, but I'm pretty sure he's in Los Angeles right now. So there are three icons of America's space program right there in a dinner setting here on the Space Coast. So I just love it. So Buzz Aldrin, hope that you live as long as you want to live. All right, 96 years old. We know that's the threshold of a lot of things breaking down on our old bodies there. But what a guy! What an inspiration to everybody. He did a children's book that you can get his autograph affordable on a lot of things because he signed so many things. His autograph is now when it's with Neil and Mike Collins and Buzz on a lithograph or photograph of them. It's worth $3,000 to $5,000. Okay, all day long. By himself, Buzz's autograph, 50 to maybe a couple hundred, depending on what it's on there. So, Janet Gresh is there. She says a warm handshake to Buzz and all's concerned. She's got a couple thousand questions. She said, okay. Gary Gerald, glad that you joined us here. Jim McDade with an interesting tidbit here. Tiny Tim's wedding on December 17, 1969 was the second most watched broadcast in 1969. The moonwalk was first. If you remember this, you're not very young, right, Jim? Was that on the Laugh-In show? Because Tiny Tim was a eclectic kind of a comedian singer, had long hair, played a ukulele, Tiptoe in the Tulips, in the middle of the rock and roll explosion, just endeared people to him. And, yep, he got married to some model in there. Fred Kleiner,
He didn't marry a model. I think he married Miss Vicky.
Pardon me?
He married Miss Vicky, I think was her name.
Okay, married Miss Vicky. There you go. Well, was she a model?
No,
I'm pretty sure she was attractive, but okay, not a model, but listen to Marty climate in there with Tiny Tim trivia.
Well, I wasn't a kid back then. I was an adult.
Yeah, you were an adult back then, but you had too much time working on lunar module there. I'm making a note here. I guess we got to show people a picture of Tiny Tim tomorrow and have some tie into that.
You want to get the soundtrack of Tiptoeing Through the Tulips.
Okay. Good. All right. I was on the Johnny Carson show, Jimmy. Thank you all. Yeah, that's what you said. Of course, it was on the Johnny Carson show. Something that I even watch on retro TV now is Johnny Carson once in a while. What entertainers run that thing. Well, hope you enjoyed this, Helene. Thank you for watching, Helene. She is the Everyday Explorer and a partner here at our museum. Michael Bruno, Mark Usiak pulled himself away from his computer to stay curious today. Again, happy birthday to Robert Law. There's what that gentleman looks like up in Dundee, Scotland. He'll be here next week on the Space Coast for a couple of weeks. The Highwayman is watching. Carlton Bailey's watching. Tom Celentano, who he said Buzz Aldrin was the first astronaut he ever met. He's looking at us right there. You'll never forget that. Dean Babcock, Fred Kleiner, Mostly Park, Tom Usiak. Thank you for turning me on to this, my friend. And we've been best friends ever since, just like we've been friends for 20 years, right, Usiaks? Steve Jokums, Mark Thel, Ophelia in France, Doug Forrest in Los Angeles, RG Jubilee about 30 miles from us, Dave Stange up in the cold clime of that state up north in Macomb, Michigan, and Jim McDade, who's said there was aurora over Huntsville, Alabama last night at the Rocket Center. So check that out on there. And here's how we give a tribute to Buzz out at Spaceview Park. There's his handprints in bronze, a picture of him there. And there's Sam Bedingfield of NASA, Cal Fowler, okay? These people are part of our museum. Those two were big-time part. The other ones like Mary Olds and Les of NASA, Lestral Crabtree of Rockwell International. These were people, space workers, who gave us $100 to put their name and immortalize you guys forever out there. Marty's out there in a couple places, aren't you, Marty? Yep. Apollo and the shuttle area out there. But this is right near the statue of President Kennedy in bronze, his handprints there. And his hands are about the same as mine. All right. So he wasn't a real big guy, about 5'9" probably. But Neil, his handprints are kind of small. And I think Neil is like 5'8", so his handprints are. And to talk like an amateur astronomer, the moon is 1 day old, and you're going to see it creep into your evening sky starting tomorrow night. You'll be lucky to see it tonight. Maybe it'll be there as a thin crescent, but tomorrow night, when it's 3 days old, it'll be there, starting the moon dance across our skies up there. And I hope that you can have a chance to see our American Space Museum as we show the front of it here during the COVID protocol days there. That's an old time when I pulled up there. But grateful to Gary McDaniel for helping us get the place spruced up. He's done some things like a lot of painting and some honeydews that we need done around here. Gary McDaniel, thank you for your help here at the American Space Museum. It takes a lot of volunteers to run a nonprofit, and we're glad to have somebody like Gary helping us there. So, Brevard, tomorrow, Sunday, Astronaut Memorial with Jan Davis speaking out there. If you're in the local area, please plan to attend it. About a 90 minutes, almost a 2-hour ceremony that we give a short bio of all 17 Apollo, Challenger, and Columbia astronauts, and really do a patriotic program to honor just not our fallen heroes, but to honor everyone who is involved with America's great space program. Thank you, Brevard Astronomical Society, for sponsoring today. Whether you're local or not, go look up who is doing the stargazing in your community and see Saturn's rings and Jupiter's moons and the beautiful, colorful bands on Jupiter and so much more. The amateur astronomers in your community are anxious to get you out under the stars so they can put stars in your eyes. All right. So until tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, and we have a big BRPH construction party going on here. I'll feature them a little bit and some other space news we'll catch up on too. Until next time, here is Buzz Aldrin looking at you. All right, side view there through his helmet, and Mark Marquette saying, I'm looking at you showing up tomorrow so I can bridge the space between us. Thank you so much.